I don't know much about Kenya, but my name is Christopher. I'm a political science student at the University of Stockholm, and I'm a little bit worried about Kenya's decision, or the majority, to take the so-called political elites and try them in the ICU. And here's why.
You're from? Where you from?
I'm from Jamaica, but I grew up in the United States. I'm interested in genocide. My PhD track is genocide, comparative genocide. And here's why I'm a little bit worried. If it's ethnicity versus ethnicity violence that's in Kenya, or is it politicide, the violence that occurred is as a result of politicide, and then they were killed just because they supported a certain party and it happens to be of that ethnicity? Because what could happen if you try these guys in the ICU, let's say they're tried and convicted and an election comes up? The decision by the ICU to try these guys outside of Kenya might end up being an ad hoc catalyst that opens up this abscess of genocide in Kenya. Wouldn't it be wise to somehow let the ICU give jurisprudence advice and try them in Kenya, to let the whole Kenya see that we can try criminals here instead of taking it to the ICU, because you might open up a genocide inadvertently. So Kenya should think about that.
So justice as a form of
You know, for the last 40 years, we have been trying to judge our leadership and hold them accountable, and we have failed.
Yeah, but maybe it's right now.
No, there's been attempts and attempts. The ICC is the court of last resort. When you get to the ICC, it means you have exhausted all the mechanisms and all the spaces that are there for you to try and do so. Now, the violence in Kenya that was seen last year was political violence expressed ethnically. And that's because Kenyans organize themselves politically through ethnic. The politics in Kenya is organized ethnically. So alliances shift depending on where the leaders of the communities go. So, for example, in 2007, you'll find that the Kalenjin and the Luo were in the same camp politically. But in 2002, in 2002 elections, the Luo and the Kalenjin were in opposite camps. So had there been violence then, it would have been Luo and Kalenjin. But in 2007, they are friends, so they're not fighting. If you get my meaning. So I hear you and I understand what you're saying, but when it's not, we're not naive in trying to go to the ICC. We're not doing it because we want to do it, but we have tried, and there's absolutely no way forward for us to move. Absolutely none. And it's strong support. It's 68%, because our politicians and our leadership is able to buy their way out of anything in the country. I mean, our judicial system, our legal system, unfortunately, is weighted against poor people. If you're poor, you'll be jailed. If you're rich, you hire a good lawyer, and the Minister of Justice there was one of the best trial lawyers Kenyans have. You'll get away with it because there's so many loopholes in the law. It's so easy to get away with it. So it's one of the things where there's a lot of problems in the country that we have not been able to solve. And in a sense, actually, sometimes when people talk about the ICC, we just want this political class to go. So rather than us taking guns and shooting them on the beach.
My first question to you, because we have seen Ocampo doing a very good job, Professor Aston, Kofi Annan, or the Western democracies coming to help the Kenyan people. What are the Kenyan people themselves doing? Why don't we see millions of Kenya demonstrating all over Kenya in support of criminals to be taken to Hague? There's other thing, Mr. Maina, some of us, look me. I have seen impunity in that country, believe me. Because I was born during Mau Mau. I'm a Kikuyu. I come from Nyeri. We were brought up by Red Cross milk or food. Like what is happening in Darfur. To this day, I have never seen democracy. The first impunity started with our founding father, the so-called Jomo Kenyatta, because he was a murderer and he was not a democratic, despite the fact it was during Cold War. He was supported by the West. Now came his predecessor, Moi, 24 years of impunity, killing Kenya's people. Wagala massacre is well documented. Kibich massacre, etc., etc. Now came Mwai Kibaki, who promised the Kenyans, we shall get a constitution within 100 days. Eventually came, we saw all what is happening, the killings, without going much in details because everything is well documented. When Professor Aston was there, the quake was good because Kenya has, or Kibaki government has so many squads of police killing people. There is Kwekwe, there is Rhino, there is Flying Squad, etc., etc., who are above the law. Gestapo, the pure Gestapo. They can kill you, they can do anything. When Aston was there, they killed Kangara, the Oscar group, Kamau Kangara, and the John Ouro. The other day, that was last week, when Ocampo was there, they killed the leader of Kenya Youth Alliance, Johana. Is that impunity? Then, is that not impunity? How do we interpret that? Again, the police reform, there is nothing, I don't believe in the police reform because you see Itere, it represented General Ali. It is like promoting Hermann Goering, removing Hitler, Adolf Hitler, replacing him with Hermann Goering. The other thing that pains me is the West, these Western people. Because you go to Nairobi, Swedish embassy is there, Danish embassy is there, German embassy is there, American ambassador is there, British ambassador who control our economically, politically, military training. Because when we talk of brutal police force, these brutal GSU paramilitary, they are Western trained, Israeli trained, British trained, armed, equipped, and everything. Why are these embassies keeping quiet?
You can't have reform without reformers. So you can have good institutions and the wrong people, you get nowhere. Or you can have good people without the institutions, you get nowhere. It's a simultaneous process we have to build. I think Kenyans have capacity. I think for me, I have no doubt there's a lot of capacity in terms of Kenyan people that can run a government well and run the society well. I think it's more that we have, for some reason, we have, let me put it this way. I've always said that I don't think I know of any society that is as good as Kenyans, as solving, Kenyans are very good at solving public problems privately. So that's what we do. So we decide that the education system is so bad, public education is so bad. We don't solve it. We just take our kids out of that and put them into private school. I can't afford to send them to private school, so what do? I start being corrupt. So I can sustain, because the problem is I want my children to have a good education. Valid thing to do. But instead of us solving the public problem, we solve it personally, privately. And that's where the bulk of the problem is for us. So that's why we go away. So you have the problems of finding a good job or finding work. Pick up your bags and go to Botswana as a doctor, or South Africa and make more money. You're a nurse, you go to England, you make more money. You're solving a problem for yourself, which is why we are corrupt. So there's a whole ethos we have to regenerate in our society as Kenyans, which is public problems need public solutions, not private solutions. So that's why I think it's a process we have to go through. But I think that a few months ago, I was very pessimistic about Kenya. But with Ocampo's haste and the way he has moved, I feel a lot more optimistic now that maybe we'll get that opening that we need. But it won't happen soon. There's no way it will happen in the next 5 years. It will probably happen after 2017.